So if you check my Instagram for today, you will notice that on this day 14 years ago, 12th of August 2006, I, Martin Overland Miller Anthony, met Dannii Minogue. I was 20 years at the time. I'd only been a metalhead for 10 months and stuff. And so Dannii Minogue was doing an in-store on Oxford Street in Sydney called Hum at Oxford. I had a hard time getting to this venue, getting to this store, because, you know, the train lines weren't working in my part of Sydney. And then I had a hard time trying to find where Oxford Street was, because I was 20 years old at the time and I hadn't really ventured out into my own city. So then I get there, I spend 2 hours in line waiting. I already bought a copy of the Hits of Beyond to get signed. So then, you know, Dannii Minogue's like signs that I told her that I've enjoyed the music since I was like 8 and stuff, and I find it pretty hot. And she was like really grateful and flatterful. And then like the funny thing was, right, like as I was shaking hands, she pulled me over and I kissed her. And like, so for the next like days, weeks, months, years, I've just been bragging that, you know, I kissed Dannii Minogue. That's like, you know, I always preferred Kylie music over Dannii, but you know, Dannii Minogue, in my opinion, has always been attractive. Like, I got a friend of mine, Josh from Hellbringer. He always has the hots for Kylie, even though he doesn't really like the music and stuff. But he's always like, Danny's a bimbo and a blow-up doll and stuff, and she's an implants and all. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, keep it to yourself. Yeah. Here's more photographs of your girlfriends. So today I'm going to be like talking about like famous people that I have personally enjoyed meeting in my life. You know, I'm 35, almost in a few months, and you know, I've met a lot of legends. I've met a lot of heavy metal musicians, authors, stupid singers. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a seat down somewhere in a park, and I'll be like talking to people about it. Henry Rollins was doing an in-store signing at Utopia Records in April 2008. I had first heard of him thanks to his TV show, The Rollins Show, so that's how I discovered Slayer. So I bought his DVD uncut in Tel Aviv, and basically Henry Rollins goes to see Jerusalem. He does a spoken word in Tel Aviv, and it was like quite innovative for me because he tells people on stage how he used to listen to a lot of like really crap music like Alan Parsons Project or ELO until he found the Ramones. So I went to Utopia Records on a day in April, and then when it was my turn to meet Henry Rollins, I was basically like, I was, at least I've spoken about meeting him. I was like, "Hi Henry, I'm Martin," and he's like, "Hey Martin, nice to meet you." And because like, he addressed me like very well and stuff. And so I tell Henry Rollins how I've just become a metalhead, and then our stories are quite similar. I tell him that I've wasted 12 years of my life listening to pieces of shit until I found metal. And then Henry Rollins said to me, "You know something funny, Martin? When I was a young man, I used to think I could only listen to ELO or I could only listen to Ramones, but I listened to both. But it was only that one ELO record that I really enjoyed. And I don't know what one it was, but I kind of guess it was one of the 71. So he signed my copy of Uncut in Tel Aviv, and I actually got to see him on stage 2 years later. I still haven't seen him since I've moved to the United Kingdom, and Henry Rollins is a really big influential person in my life. He's been to a lot more countries than I've been to. I'm not familiar with these music as Henry Rollins bands, but I have listened to him in Black Flag, and I do believe that like the Damaged album is a landmark album in, you know, hardcore punk. And even some of the later Black Flag albums, they influence stoner metal and sludge metal. So Henry Rollins. Chuck Billy of Testament, a true native Indian American. You know, you can't get any much more Amerindian than Chuck Billy. You know, his ancestors were in America way before the Europeans and the Asians and the Australians. Yeah, so, and also the Africans. So I've seen Testament like 3 times, twice in Sydney, once in France, excuse me, dinner. Yeah, and he's very down to earth and stuff. I got a really nice photograph with him, with Chuck Billy at Utopia Records. He signed all my CDs and stuff, along with the rest of the band and stuff. And if you ask me, I think Testament are a lot more interesting than the big four thrash. Like, I mean, I've never seen Metallica, but I have seen Anthrax, Megadeth, and Slayer. But you know, you got to remember Death Angel, Overkill, Exodus, and Testament. Yeah. So, Chuck Billy was my favorite thrash metal frontman I've ever met. Now, when I came back to the United Kingdom at the end of 2016, I told my dad, I said, there's one thing I want to do, and I want to meet Joan Collins. I didn't know anything about Joan Collins until I immigrated to the United Kingdom, so the first thing I did was visit her parents' grave in Hampstead and Golders Green, learn a bit more about their ancestral stuff. And I was going to travel to France to see Joan Collins smash a champagne bottle on a boat, because they were naming a boat after her. She was like christening a boat. Like, so, but then she put a movie out called Time of the Lives with another Collins, Pauline Collins, and this Italian famous actor. So they're doing a premiere at Curzon Cinemas on the 8th of March 2017, International Women's Day. Now, I've been in Guernsey. I just hang out with my cousin Charles. I take the boat back to Portsmouth. And I spent a few nights in like London before going back to Birmingham. So on the day of the meeting, like I just get up, have some breakfast and all. But then when I'm at Golders Green train station, I start vomiting. I'm throwing up. I'm like, I am so nervous. I'm gonna meet this woman who's a dame, who's like a good actress and done a lot of good things. And she was like 83 at the time. Yeah, 83 and 84. And so I got my copy of one of her books, Too Damn Famous, and I waited at the barriers. My friend Metal Steve from Australia, who emigrated to Canada a couple of years prior, he's in London this week for work and stuff. So we say, oh, let's meet up at a pub and like just have a meal together. But then I'm hanging out in the press pen waiting for Dame Joan. And then I say to Metal Steve, oh, Metal Steve, you're gonna have to meet me outside Curzon Cinema. It's across the road from the Saudi Arabian Embassy. So Metal Steve takes an hour out of his life to come hang out with me. And we talked about what we've been up to in the past year, because he's in Canada and I moved to England, even though we both used to work in a really shitty Mexican restaurant in Rouse Hill called Tequilas, Maine. So then 2 hours later, I meet Joan Collins, and she signed my copy of Too Damn Famous and stuff. And it was quite an iconic day to have met Joan Collins on International Black Women's Day. And it's always been a running gag for me since I came to the United Kingdom. I always say, yeah, I threw up outside of Golders Green train station before I met Joan Collins and stuff. And it's always like people always like say that to me. Oh, you gotta meet Joan Collins. Make sure you take your anti-nausea medication, Martin. Yeah, otherwise you'll be throwing up again. I said I'll just bring I'll bring a chucking bag and stuff. Stockholder Cheng. You say the name Stockholder Cheng to your random friends, and they're like, who? Who's Stockholder Cheng? And you're like, Rizzo from Grace. That chick in the earlier years of Sesame Street, who was the random number painter's victim. And people are like, oh yeah, Rizzo. Yeah, Rizzo and stuff. So Stockholder Cheng was in London 3 years ago to put this play on called Apologia. And it was on for a couple of months. I saw the play in end of September 2017, and I thought it was fantastic, but I didn't hang around the back entrance till I made it. I thought, oh, I'm gonna go back to work the next day, so I left. Then I found people on Instagram who had met Stockholder Cheng, and I thought, this is a possibility. I want to meet this woman and stuff, because I liked her in Grease, and my mom loved her in The Good Wife. So it was November 2017, and I was just about to leave to go to the Soviet Union. Well, you know, 4 Soviet former states. So I booked a cheap ticket to see Apologia again, And then I kept a marker with me and an autograph book, and so I bought the playbook for Aplosia. Took a good seat. Stockholder was a bit ill because she was sick with the flu the weeks prior, and I was kind of worried that she wasn't going to like be there and stuff. So I saw her on the way in and said, "Oh, good." I didn't really say good luck and stuff. You're supposed to say like break a leg, so it's like theatre. And so I saw her on the way out and stuff, and I had a selfie with her. I said, "Oh, Stockholder, my mom loved you in The Good Wife, and I loved you in Greece. I'm so happy that I immigrated from Australia to England." And she was really like grateful, and I got a selfie with her. So after I met her, I called my mom to say, "Oh, Mom, I met Stockholder Cheng," and all. And then after meeting Stockholder Cheng, a lot of my friends were like stoked that I met Risa from Greece. Like one day on the tube, I met Duke Fang of the band Stockholder Squadron, and he's a fellow Australian like me. And I'm showing him photographs of me with Dannii Minogue and Joe Collins and Lee Aaron and Stockholder Cheng. And he's pointing at me, he's like, "Oh look, he's met Joe Collins and Stockholder Cheng and Dannii Minogue and Lee Aaron and Rizzo from Greece. He's met Rizzo from Greece." Yeah, so that was quite another iconic actress I met. I don't think anything could top that. Well, except for Joan Collins, though. Dream Theater. Dream Theater would have to be my favorite progressive metal band of all time, my favorite prog band, my favorite American band, and yeah, I'd give them a title of like my favorite band of all time. So my brother took me to see Dream Theater in 2008 in January. It was the first time they ever came to Australia. At the end of the concert, I'm kind of thinking, look, I've been wasting a lot of my life listening to pieces of shit. And then so 2 weeks later I saw Iron Maiden. I bought Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, and then that influenced me to chuck every Kylie Minogue album I had in the Vinnie's deposit box. Because I thought, you know, I've been wasting 14 years of my life. Well, not really 14 years, but on again, off again from 1993 to 2008. So Dream Theater changed my life a lot. I bought most of their albums. And then they came back to Australia in December 2009. I paid $250 Australian to meet the band. And it's the only time I've ever paid to meet somebody famous. Because I'm not really into that type of thing, you know? Like when I saw Olivia and John, that she was charging $99 to meet her. And I thought, fuck that, I'd rather meet her guitarist Annie Timmons of Danger Danger. So, when I met Dream Theater in 2009, I spoke well with John Myung, because even though he's a quiet one, he inspired me to buy a bass in 2008. Well, actually, I got it in 2009, but yeah, his bass playing like really blew my mind. So, I saw Dream Theater again in 2014, into the October 2014 in Sydney, and then I also saw them in Birmingham in 2017, and then I saw them twice in the last 12 months in Slovakia in June 2019 and in Trondheim earlier this year. So I've seen Dream Theater 6 times, best band that I've ever met, best amount of money I've ever paid to meet somebody famous. But I don't think I would pay to meet them again. I still haven't met Mike Mangini yet, even though I've seen him live more times than Mike Portnoy. It was July 2008 when I met Joe Satriani in Sydney. He was doing an in-store signing of his new album, and so I went to Utopia Records that day and bought my copy of Surfing with the Alien to get it signed. And so then the next night I see him live at the Emerald Theatre. He is a wicked guitarist. Even though he's been nominated for so many Grammys and never won any of them, I think he deserves his credit because he taught so many famous guitarists in heavy metal like Kirk Hammett and Gary Holt from Exodus. And he even did a good job at producing that Possessed album. So when I met Joe Satriani, I had to thank him for influencing so many other guitarists of my generation. Necro Butcher of Mayhem. I saw Mayhem at Hellfest many years ago and stuff. I've always liked their music and stuff. But Nico Butcher has been the main person in the band since day one, apart from the fact when he left for a couple of years after the death of Dad, and then he rejoined the band after Euronymous was murdered. He was doing an in-store signing at Crypt of the Wizards in Hackney, not far from where I was working. So I went to HMV to buy the only Mayhem product they had in stock. It was Live in Their Peas, the only album that had Dead on vocals. The guy at the counter was wearing a Dannii Minogue badge, the first album. He really angered me when he asked me for a bag. I didn't need a bag, because I had a backpack on my own back. So, as I left, I told him to go listen to Mayhem. So, I lined up at 5 o'clock, and then Nico Butcher got to the shop at 6, and so I was first in line, and I was telling Nico Butcher how I had visited Dead's grave in Stockholm and Euronymous' grave in Oslo, and how I was going to see you guys in Australia, but the tour got cancelled in 2008. I told Nico Butcher that I really wanted to move to Oslo someday soon, and he says, well, by the time you move to Oslo, I would have gone to Australia for a tour. So yeah, that was a good meeting I had with Nico Butcher. And next on my list, Lee Aaron. Now, I first discovered who Lee Aaron was in 2008. A good friend of mine in the Sydney metal community, James Grant, he was showing me his record collection of bands like Lee Aaron, Vixen, Kimla Chance, Holy Moses and Warlock. And the one album that stood out amongst all the records he had was Lee Aaron, Metal Queen. And I thought, wow, this chick is really hot. So I downloaded the Metal Queen album, listened to it, and I gave it a good 10 out of 10. I've always admired Lee Aaron's 80s stuff, but I really cringe every time I hear her jazz things. I mean, yeah, she's feel free to do what she wants, but jazz doesn't really please all of her metal fans. So, Lee Aaron hadn't put out like a rock album in many years, and then so finally she put out a good album with the hit song Tomboy. So I decided to see Lee Aaron in June 2017, a month after I moved to London, and I was standing right at the front of the concert hall at the Underworld, and as she started singing like a Tomboy, her microphone cord fell out, and so like she was like, and then her guitarist Sean Kelly like started singing along the rest of the song while Lee Aaron is fixing a microphone. And as I was so close to Lee Aaron, she's like swinging her microphone around, and I'm worried she's gonna hit me in the head. And she made jokes about how us British people can't really sing too well because of too much fish and chips. I got to meet Lee Aaron after the concert, and I told her the story about how I discovered her in 2008, and I really want my friends in Winnipeg, Metal Steve, Metal Vanessa, to see Lee Aaron. And she says, oh yeah, I'm playing in Winnipeg with Lita Ford in 3 months' time, so maybe you can come to Canada and encourage your friends to go and see them. I was going to go to Canada that year to see Lee Aaron, but Neuron Spoiler, the band who was supporting Lee Aaron that night, they were doing an album launch. So I promised JR and Eric Tequila that I would attend the Neuron Spoiler launch album, and I was glad I did. Now, Obituary came to Australia for the first time in 2007. I wasn't really into Obituary at the time, but then a year later I got into death metal. So then Obituary came back to Australia in November 2009. I saw them at the Manning Bar a day after my birthday on the 20th of November 2009. And I met the bassist, Frank Watkins, and he signed my copy of the recent Obituary album Executioner's Return on vinyl. And he was really down-to-earth person signing autographs before the gig, and I got a photograph with him. Unfortunately, he passed away of cancer some 6 years later. And then after the show, I met John Tardy. So he signed my copy, I had a photograph with him, and I said, I look forward to seeing you at Maryland Death Fest. So then, 7 months down the track, in May 2010, I saw Obituary at Maryland Death Fest at the end of my American holiday. And then I catch up with John Tardy again, I got a photograph with him. So it's kind of funny when you compare my photographs to when I met John Tardy in November 2009, and it's the second time I met John Tardy in May 2010. I haven't seen Obituary since 2010, and when I saw Obituary at Death Fest, their bassist Frank Watkins had left the band to join a Norwegian black metal band, Gorgoth, yeah. He was in Gorgoth before he died.